Hello everyone, in this short we're going to talk about how to use count and for each within Terraform. Now I already have this configuration deployed into DigitalOcean, so if I go to the UI, you'll see that I have 6 virtual machines deployed, 3 of them using count and 3 of them using for each. So let's look at the configuration for a second and see what's going on here. Well, you'll see that I have 2 local variables here. Now one of them is called developers count and one of them is called developers for each. And they just represent 2 different ways to lay out different developers, right? Let's say I have an engineering team and I have Alice, Bob, and Charlie as my engineers, and I want to create virtual machines for all of them. So I'm creating my SSH key that I'm going to have everyone connect with, and I'm going to show 2 different ways to create multiple resources in Terraform. The first way is to use what's called count. Now, count just takes a number of how many of this resource you would want to create. So in this case, I'm creating 3 resources, right? Because the length of that developer's count variable is 3, right? Alice, Bob, and Charlie. So I'm creating 3 resources of this droplet. When you use count, you get access to this special variable here called count.index, and you can use that because that holds the index of the currently counted resource. So you'll see here I have DigitalOcean droplet 0, DigitalOcean droplet 1, and DigitalOcean droplet 2. I get 3 of them because that's how big my array is. With for each though, you need to give it a set or a map. So for each doesn't take a number, it takes a set or a map, something that has unique keys that it can iterate over. And in here I had to use 2 set Alice, Bob, Charlie, and now my developer variable here is using the for each syntax. So now for each of these developers that I have, Alice, Bob, and Charlie, I can create a virtual machine for them, and I get access to this special each.key variable. And that's going to hold Alice, Bob, and Charlie. So why does this all matter, right? They're both kind of doing the same thing. What's the difference? Well, the difference is count addresses resources based on index, and for each addresses its resources based on key. So what does that really mean? If I list my resources out, the 3 resources that I created with count are index based, right? 0, 1, 2. And the 3 resources that I created with for each are key based, Alice, Bob, and Charlie. Okay, but why does that really matter? Well, count is really good when you don't care about one particular resource over the other. So more of a cattle based approach. And for each is really good when you do slightly care about one resource versus the other, but they're very, very similar that you don't want to split them out into different resources. More of a pet. Why does this matter? Well, let's say Bob is no longer on our development team and we get rid of Bob. Well, what happens? If I apply this configuration, you'll see that the for each version of Bob, their VM gets deleted correctly. But the counted version of Bob, Bob was VM 1, right? Index 1. So you'll notice here, Bob's VM is not going to get deleted. It's just going to be renamed to Charlie's VM, and Charlie's VM is the one getting deleted. So even though Bob is the one that's no longer with the company, Charlie's VM is the one getting destroyed. So Charlie's kind of getting the short end of the stick here. And why does that happen? Well, it's because the way count and for each handle expansion and deletion. Count only takes a number. So if you drop the number from 3 to 2, well, it's going to delete the last item that was created. It's going to shrink down. So that means that you had indexes 0, 1, and 2, and now you only have indexes 0 and 1. So the lastmost index is going to be the one that's going to be destroyed. Whereas in for each, they're all based on keys, so it doesn't matter which one you destroy. It's looked up by its key, and it can destroy the specific one. So that's how you can use count and for each, and kind of what their uses are. The count is more suited for that cattle-based approach, and for each is kind of suited for both. But if you have more of a pet style, for each is probably the safer one you want to use because you can address them individually by keys. So to recap, count, for each, they're both 2 different ways to scale up your Terraform configuration. Count for cattle, and for each more for pets. Thank you for watching this one, and I will see you in the next one.